Love it to connect with everyone at the Demand Gen Summit. Let's just jump in here. I'm going to present. I'm just going to share my slides. Let me go 1 second.
So you can either share your screen.
There we go. Got it.
Get it? Great.
Okay, just let me know if that pops up.
Yep, you're all nicely. Good to go.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about just high level. Why does demand generation mean so much, and why is it such an important topic? If you go to Economics 101, the first thing they teach you is that demand and supply set the price and the profitability. And essentially, if you break it down, companies, most founders, most companies, most teams think a lot about the supply side of what they do. And they get better and better at being able to supply something. They become highly productive at supply. And ultimately, if you become very good at supply, but you're not so good at demand, in Economics 101, you start losing money, right? So it drives down price and it makes you unprofitable. And it seems incredibly unfair that that happens, because you would think that doing the right thing by customers and thinking about how you can serve them more productively and doing more and more and more for customers, you would think that that's actually a really smart thing to do. But ultimately, it actually results in losing money, because supply line goes up, you become ultra productive with supply, and you become less so with demand. And essentially, the rules of economics are like the rules of gravity. It just happens that way. On the flip side, there are some companies that get extremely good at generating demand, and they constrain supply. They actually reduce supply. They stop supply from happening in some way. Maybe they hold back what they're offering and put it behind some sort of a gate or a wall, and they reduce the ability to access the supply while they ramp up the demand. And those companies tend to make profit. Let me give you two examples. So an example of a company that is ultra focused, or a business or an institution that's ultra focused on the supply side, would be an airline. So an airline is very focused on running a great business, and they have a huge amount of capital expenditure. They have a huge amount of work to do when it comes to safety and customer service. They have to take off and land at exactly the right times. Everything has to go perfectly to plan. They can never make a single mistake. And you would think, if profit was handed out fairly, you would think that airlines should be wildly profitable. You would imagine that an airline should be like making 50% profit margins on every single ticket, because there's so much that has to go right in order for them to be a successful business. But what we know is around the world, all over the world, airlines make about 5% profit margins, maybe 10% at the best of times. So 5 to 10% is a fairly normal profit margin for an airline. Most of them make most of their profit off things like their points systems and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not a great business. If we flip the script and we say, what is a business that is really the opposite of an airline? I would say Rolex. So Rolex watches, they don't have to do any innovation. They don't really do very good customer service. They don't have to have any safety built into their product. If something goes wrong, they just tell you it's part of the watch, and you can bring it back if you want to, and they'll spend $1,000 fixing it. Right? So they are very, very different. But there's a big difference between Rolex. Rolex is very, very good at ramping the demand and constraining the supply, whereas an airline is very good at making sure the supply is always reliable, and they're not very good at ramping up the demand. So ultimately, Rolex has 70% profit margins, while airlines have 5 or 10% profit margins. So essentially, Rolex is more than 10 times more profitable than an airline. So profit is not handed out fairly. Profit is handed out based upon the demand and supply tension, the tension between buyers and sellers. And that is essentially Economics 101. And it sucks and it's not fair. And I don't like it, but that's just how it is, right? I might not like gravity, but gravity is still a thing. Now, if we want to take this to the next highest level, then we want to add something called transparency. Transparency of demand and supply is a phenomenon where customers become aware that there are other customers who want the supply, right? So this is transparency. So a great example of this would be on a hot summer's day, where we have an ice cream truck. There's one ice cream truck, and there's lots of people who want ice creams, and they can see that they are all queuing up, and therefore they can see that there is transparently a lot more people demanding ice creams than there is supply. So anyone who's in that queue would feel pretty silly asking for a discount. If you waited 20 minutes and got to the front of the line and then you said, oh, by the way, can I get a half price ice cream? You know that it's very unlikely that you're going to get 50% discount because there are so many people waiting in the line. The ice cream seller only has to say, look behind you, there's 30 people waiting to pay. We're not going to do any discounts today. And the reason for that is transparent demand and supply tension. So the goal of your business is to be this ice cream truck. You basically want to get people lining up, and you want the people who are in the line to become aware that there are other people in the line. You want people to become aware that there is demand and supply tension. We call this phenomenon transparency of demand and supply tension. So the opposite of that is what most businesses do, which is just blasting messages at customers, and customers are completely unaware of anyone else that you're selling to. They're unaware that anyone else wants this. So they feel hassled and they feel bullied and they feel pressured and they feel that you're a pushy salesperson because ultimately they feel like, you know, there's me with my budget and there's you trying to get me to spend my budget. And I just feel like you're just pushing to get my money, right? So that's the opposite. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we can orchestrate things so that we are generating a lot of demand and that the customers become aware, or the prospects become aware, that there's a lot of demand building up. So how do you do this? You do this through a campaign called Signals First, Then Sales. So the campaign is where you generate signals before you try and generate sales. So you never ask a customer for a sale. You simply ask them for a signal of interest. And then when you have sufficiently more signals of interest than you can make sales, you then allow customers to buy. So you get into a situation where there's that lineup and then you open the doors, right? You become oversubscribed and you go through a process of oversubscribing something before you launch. Okay, let me give you an example of this absolutely executed perfectly year upon year upon year. In the UK, we have a music festival called Glastonbury Music Festival. And Glastonbury Music Festival, for 364 days of the year, you are not allowed to buy a ticket. You can only pre-register for a ticket. In fact, the wording of their landing page is very kind of like anti-sales. It says to obtain tickets. It doesn't say to get your hands on a ticket. It's not exciting. It's to obtain tickets for Glastonbury. You must register, full stop. Failure to follow the registration instructions correctly will lead to rejection. Whoa, deep personal rejection. You'll be notified if this occurs. However, we would advise that you check your registration prior to tickets going on sale to ensure your registration's been accepted. Anyone, blah, 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 blah. So now you have to go through the process of registering for a ticket. Now, what happens is that over the course of 364 days of the year, 700,000 people pre-register for a ticket. They signal that they're interested in buying. And then just one day of the year, they say, on this particular day, we're making the tickets available, but it actually doesn't even last for a day because the tickets typically sell out in under 30 minutes. So this year, I saw this headline, Glastonbury Festival fans are devastated after tickets are sold out in under 6 minutes. So essentially, everyone was totally upset. 700,000 people registered for tickets. Only 140,000 people get tickets. So essentially, they did a very good job of this signals first, then sales campaign. So really, really powerful. Okay, so what can you do to launch a signals first campaign? The best thing you can do is something called promoting the waiting list. Promoting the waiting list is a powerful strategy that you can use in any number of circumstances. There's a few circumstances that it works particularly well. You can promote the waiting list for the next year. So for example, anytime after October, you can start the waiting list for the year ahead. So if you're in November now, it's a great time to be launching the waiting list for joining as a customer next year. If you're really particularly bold, you can say, we're not taking on any more customers this year. If you're interested in becoming a customer, you can become a customer next year if you join the waiting list. So that's one thing you could do. If you're making any changes to your business, let's say you're upgrading some services, maybe you're adding AI, maybe you're adding some technology, some training, some content. If you're doing any of those things, don't simply launch it. Start by launching the wait list for access to the upgraded features and get people to signal that they're interested in access to that. If you're doing anything like an event or training or a retreat or a workshop, don't launch the tickets, launch the waiting list before you launch the tickets. so that people can signal before they have to buy. The goal is to get people to signal by joining a waiting list before they have to buy anything. Let me give you an example of how we recently tried this and it worked really well. So as I said before, I own a number of companies, and one of the companies is a publishing company, and the team came to me and they said, we're interested in launching a new part of the business, which is AI for authors. And we want to use artificial intelligence to help people to write their book and to get a better result with their book. And it's going to help them to structure the book and do all of those sorts of things. So I said to them, well, I'm interested, but only if the market is interested. I'm not really interested in pushing this too hard. I want to know that the market's really wanting this. So I said, here's what we'll do. We'll launch a waiting list. And if there's more than 150 people who join, then we'll take it to the next step and we'll explore this further. So we basically blocked out 2 hours to create a landing page on Score App where we just simply created a few graphics and a few headlines. And we said, yep, we've got a nice little landing page there. And we launched the landing page. So the way we launched it is we went to LinkedIn and I said, I'm working on a project to develop AI tools for authors. These tools don't write the book for you, but they do help structure the book and give instructions. If you're interested in using this tool, join the waiting list, right? So we said join the waiting list. When people clicked the link, took them to a very simple landing page, join the waiting list, hosted on Score App, and they had to answer 5 or 6 questions to join the waiting list. So they didn't just do name and email. They had to go through and answer a few little questions about how much they wanted to pay, and they had to answer a few questions about what features they were looking forward to the most. So that basically went through. So I posted that expecting less than 150 people to fill it in. What actually happened is within a few days, we had 750 people fill in the waiting list. 1,200 people hit the website and 64% of people joined the waiting list. So I was quite shocked at how positive the response was. And it made me think, okay, maybe we should allocate some time and energy to this because people are really loving this. So we went, okay, fantastic. And then we analyzed the data and we said, okay, let's have a look at the price point. And we found out that the majority of people were happy to pay about £39 or about $50 a month for access to this tool, which was higher than we thought. And we thought based on our database size and based upon this conversion that we could easily get to 3,000 to 4,000 subscribers on launch. So this was a pretty good result. It gets even better because one of the questions that I asked was, would you be interested in seeing an angel investor presentation for this business model? And we had 150 people say that they did want to see an angel investor presentation. So we launched a second scorecard where they could actually register for the angel investor presentation on a wait list, and then we would send them a video presentation. As a result of the 150 people who saw the video presentation, including our financial projections based on our wait list, we ended up with about £580,000 worth of signaled interest in the angel investor round, which is about $750,000 US. When we looked at how much we needed, we actually only needed about £250,000 to go to stage 1, so for a seed round. So we emailed back and we said, look, will you reduce the amount that you're interested in putting in by half? We'll accept half, provided you're a sophisticated investor. So very rapidly and very quickly, we ended up raising about £250,000 seed round, just simply by launching the waiting list to begin with. We hadn't at this point written a single line of code. We hadn't employed anyone. We hadn't really done anything other than done a basic design of a waiting list. And by the time we kind of got back to people, we had £250,000 or about $350,000 in the bank. And now we're launching this particular tool and launching this business. So pretty cool, all off the back of a waiting list. So the fast and easy way for you to be able to do this strategy is to just use a simple template, right? So we have these templates called Join the Waiting List. And very, very simply, you create a free account on Score App and you use the templates, and the templates are very much fill in the blanks. So are you ready to get better results with your topic, whatever the topic is? You just fill in the blanks, and essentially you just change the images the way you want to change the images. And now you've got yourself a waiting list campaign. And we've got several templates. All of them are built around really simple, ready to go templates. Let me show you a couple of examples of these templates. Let me quickly bring this one up. Okay, here's a great example of one. Oh, wait a sec. There we go. So here's an example of a template. And you can see here, pretty simple. We're busy working on an innovative new approach to a topic. If you want early access to this latest innovation, register your interest and you'll be part of our inner circle community to get priority access. You'll be getting more of a good thing. Discover how mastering topic can supercharge your ability to have a good thing. Prevent the bad thing. Learn how topic can serve as a protective shield, preventing the adverse effects of the bad thing and securing your future. And why category matters. Explore the critical domain of topic, which blah, 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 blah. So it's very much fill in the blanks. And then it tells people what to do. Start by joining the waiting list, answer 6 questions, and then gain exclusive access to the information that's coming. And there's a little bit about us as well. So it's super simple to just use these templates. And we've got a few different variations and very easy to change the logos and all of those sorts of things so it all fits nicely. And then when people register, they start immediately getting information off the back of the waiting list campaign. So we've made that very, very simple. And all you need to do is just have a free account. And I'll just put a link in the chat, or maybe the team can put a link into the main thing here. And essentially that free account allows you to use those templates. The team have said that they're about to share that as well. Okay, let me finish on a key idea. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, key idea. I want you to, well, for starters, all of those templates are available today. They're in there, very simple to find. Okay, key idea. I want you to be more Elon, right? So a little bit more Elon Musk. Have a think about how Elon did his last major product launch. He stood on stage and he said, we're going to be launching this Cybertruck thing in about 3 years' time. We haven't even built the factory, but it's going to look like this futuristic pickup truck that I've got behind me. And they had one. And he said, we think that the specifications are going to look like this. And he said, this is going to be the range. This will be the top speed. This will be how much it can tow. And the price point will be between $40,000 and $70,000. And he basically put that all up on the screen. And then he said, it's not going to be available for 3 years. However, if you want to be front of the line to get one of these, you've got to put down a $100 deposit. And if you put down a $100 deposit, then we'll have you as priority access to get a Cybertruck. Now, what actually happened is in the week after he did this, 1 million people filled in the application and paid their $100 deposit, and they got $100 million worth of deposits that came in before the Cybertruck had even launched at all. Now, what they then did is they went to the investment banks and they said, hey, we've got 1 million deposits. What if only 50,000 people buy one? That's this much money. We would be able to afford to repay this much debt. Can we borrow all the money that we need in order to create a big factory for Cybertrucks? And of course, they were able to access an enormous amount of funding. So essentially, by using a waitlist strategy, launching a waitlist, they got 1 million signals of interest that allows them to raise money and go from there. Now, what do most entrepreneurs do? Most entrepreneurs do the opposite of this. They spend 3 years building something, trying to hopefully create what the customer wants, only to discover that the customer has moved on, or they're not interested, or that they wanted it in a different color or something like that. And essentially, they're back to the drawing board, building something. They're working on the supply line rather than the demand line. So my hypothesis is, rather than building any supply, always test the demand line using a waiting list. Now, if you want to use Score App to do that, if you want to have any access to this sort of tool and these templates, check out Score App. It's all AI enabled, so you can use Score App to do other things like build assessments, launch other different lead generation campaigns, and it's all embedded with AI that does lots and lots of content writing for you and helps you to analyze the data and all sorts of things. It's got amazing fun data analytics in there as well. So I hope you like that. I hope you enjoy the idea of launching a waiting list. I feel like it will give you a massive edge, especially going into the year ahead. I really just want to hear back from you. Please contact me on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and just let me know, how did you go with the waiting list? Did you have any other questions? And hopefully I can see your waiting list launch in the next few weeks.